Quick question. So what do you think the number one issue is with logistics in the Paycom theater? So we're water, lots of space.
Yeah.
How do we get things to people at the speed of need?
I don't know that I would say the number one, I'm not sure where it would rank, but obviously distance, as you mentioned, is the thing. And then I think awareness is another surprising thing that is a challenge for us. Awareness of, hey, really what's happening in the supply chain? Have we really broken it apart? For instance, if you want to go to, I don't know, Boeing and ask them where these certain parts are all the time, could you do it right now?
Let's say it's not.
It's currently in the KC-46.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Trust us, right? Trust Boeing. They'll never get this wrong. And so that the awareness, the opaqueness, I would say, of where things are in the supply chain, and this is for our allies. So now, might an adversary know where some of these weak points are and be able to exploit it? Suddenly there's a critical piece, a critical part, a critical supply, something that you're missing. There are the big ones. Hey, fuel, water survivability, the things that we need for humans are obviously going to be big ones. So instead of answering what's the biggest one, I would say what's the one that most people are not thinking about? And I think it's the opaqueness of our allies' supply chain, and allies being even U.S. companies that we just right now don't have access to, and we're pressing the delete button on.
So I love that question. Q&A is going to be powerful. To set that up, I want you to.
Now that we have some info, we can.
Way to fail forward.
I want each team to share with Johnny and I in the room your initial challenge statement, your revised challenge statement that includes those 3 trends, right? So you just asked kind of like, we're interested in, have we, right? So you're soliciting feedback, you're soliciting information that's going to sound like an answer. And what I want you to do is give Johnny a chance to say, I'm going to prostrate myself. Here's my 6-minute version. Here's what we just came up with. Do any of these 3 answers sound like the most important problem? Right? If we give people infinite space, it's gonna be, hey, this is the thing I just read, or here's a piece of information. Really what I want you to do is say, can you throw darts at my favorite, my childhood stuffed toy? Like, please tear it apart. And that is gonna be emotionally challenging, right? Like, I just spent some time creating something. And now I need you to potentially, eviscerate it. Or just give me the feedback about how to improve this idea. So Keith, can you share where you started and where you're at?
Our initial problem statement is increase survivability in a mass casualty scenario for ACE. We kind of had to pick a location, and we kind of really focused in on training. She's got the, hold on. We wrote it down. So our revised one is, how can we increase multi-capable airmen team survivability in a multi-zone casualty event? Initially, we really all went to training, like how do we get our airmen trained better to survive? But as we're coming back to it, we really don't understand what the biggest hurdle is. That's kind of why I asked that other question. So should we focus on training? Should we focus on logistics? Should we focus on something else? I think we're all, so far, we are set on saying, okay, let's go with the Pacific Theater. Does provide a little more challenging. You can apply some of that into UCOM. You just get the option to drive instead of you either got to fly or take a boat. So
tell me about survivability. Tell me what that means. And I think you said after a mass casualty event. Is that right?
Correct.
So your time frame is after something has happened. It's really bad, and now we need the team to survive and operate.
Yes.
And we want to increase their odds of surviving and operating after an event.
Yes.
Did we get that right?
And we didn't, right now, I think most of us are agnostic, CBRN, natural disaster, kinetic. We're kind of agnostic right now. We don't care which one. We may may hone in if something through asking piques our interest.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are tied to anything right now on that. And yes, surviving is, we did say like you could train somebody to survive better through there, or is this during or post attack? How do I help you survive when it's happening or slightly after, get you more stuff you need to survive?
Well, you understand the strategy. I'm sure it's a blinding statement of the obvious. The strategy is we survive by disaggregating and disseminating and camouflaging and hiding, and so we don't get hit. And so we have teams. We're going to take casualties, but the hope is because we're so spread out and yet able to operate, they can't hit everything everywhere all the time.
Right.
And so there's kind of, funnel one is, okay, the ones who survive, are they able to keep functioning? And so I'm trying to hone in on what it is that you're honing in on. And so I think you're talking, tell me if you're talking about a base that's a unit that has been hit and then they've got to kind of lick their wounds and get back up and operating? Or you're saying the ones who don't get hit, how do they help the ones who did get hit, or the ones who don't get hit, how do they operate now?
We're not at the point, we haven't specified.
Okay, all right. That's
We're looking at all situations.
Okay.
If we were to
Yeah.
zoom in on a specific one for purpose of this conversation, let's go with post. So something has happened,
Okay, sure.
and now we're trying to respond.
That's fair. So if my role is connector, then, and I have a bias toward Air Force Futures where we're thinking about this a lot. We have cross-functional teams who are actually working on ACE and how do we survive and how do we create a strategy that enables us, to avoid the worst of this and continue to operate, right? Technology, I would say, would also have a role. So that in that green space, how do we think about new ways of not getting hit, new ways of deceiving, and then new ways of surviving and operating quickly or repairing ourselves quickly. On the training piece, I hesitate to even use the word training. I would use, honestly, the word mindset.
Right.
Because there is a training piece, to MCA. You have to be able to do certain skills. But even more important to me is locking out, can you pull the red, green, yellow? If you look at that's fine. There's a gravity. Red and blue are on the bottom. I don't think he did this on purpose, but there's a gravity to them. That kind of pulls things down into this place of checklist driven. And it's where we are right now, across the force, I would say. So when I talk about mindset, and I'm hearing what the chief is talking about all the time, it's, hey, we got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You're experiencing that this week. Awesome. We also have to be able to interpret commander's intent and then think for ourselves. So I call it the adaptive mindset. I'm not alone in this, but how do we enhance the adaptive mindset in a way that the problems we are not going to foresee here this week at this table, those airmen who are there are able to quickly respond to whatever weirdness that gets thrown at them, so they survive and operate. So that really comes down to mindset. We have to give them tools, we have to train them, we have to give them technology, and we have to protect them as best we can. But then in the end, we can't have them in the fetal position in the corner. We have to have them thinking, all right, man, that hurt, but you know what? I'm still in the game. I'm still fine.
First objective question was how might we re-image a blending of disposable, reusable, and manned systems to evacuate a location? So our subject's evacuation.
How might we blend? Did they get the verb right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How might we re-image a blending of disposable, reusable, and manned systems to evacuate a location? What we turn that into is that red statement down below there. It's how do we use emerging dual-use industry technologies to evacuate coalition forces from a contingency op location in less than 24 hours.
Okay. You heard of Project Vanguard?
You know, write this down.
Well, it didn't get off the ground, but There have been people thinking about this. It was kind of whammy zammy using space assets. Have you thought about space yet? You can get things, you can get places
It's down there,
fast.
portals are down below.
What's the scope of when you say coalition forces? Is that all of them?
I guess it's space dependent on where we're at the time. So it's
Okay.
not just U.S. forces, it's going to be our coalition forces. It's still
Trying to scope it down.
still open-ended. We
Back
don't
going,
know.
Yeah.
back going
Yeah.
out below would be problematic.
Okay.
In that type of time frame, but continue to
Sure.
operate location in the middle of the terminal and allow would be.
Yep.
workable.
So there's a crap ton of non-combatant evacuation plans out there that I'm sure you guys will be scouring and asking, okay, how do we do this better? What is the thought that's already been into it? That would be one of the places I would want to look. Who would I put you in contact with that? I mean, A4 would certainly be a place, but that sounds like an operational thing as well. So, is there anyone in the Space Force on your team? Is there anyone in the cohort from the Space Force? Okay. You guys are all airmen, is that right?
Maybe.
Okay.
So last has
Good.
a quick
Good.
thought.
No, this is good.
Yeah, when Jim gets here this afternoon, he was the WJ3 for Transcom, so he could probably connect you to a lot of the evacuation. So
Yeah.
put a pin in it and when he
Yeah.
gets here,
Yeah, and kind of to the same answer I gave over here, which is that whatever Big Blue's already doing, how do you think differently about it? So we got Transcom. They've also got a civilian force. I mean, that are using. What is the area that's unplowed ground right now to explore? And so that's why I'm thinking space. Yes, unless you
yeah,
get
one follow-on, like how do we do this in the construct now of ACE, the new concept, and integrated by design?
Yeah.
And so these are some like slivers that traditional Transcom might have the macro plan, but how do you take a slice of that
Yeah.
and get radical and wow and try things that are a little riskier than they would, if it's not
Yeah.
risky and it makes sense, they'd already be doing it.
Well, so I'm going to throw a story out there, not to lead you down a path, but it's an interesting story that's super unique. In the 1800s, there was a guy who was one of the best balloonists in the world. He developed a personal, we got that? He developed a personal size balloon that he went around Paris and he used it to commute in Paris, his personal little balloon, and he would land and he would fold it up and it fit in a briefcase. And then the workday was done, he would break it back out and he would float back to his home. So what would a personal evacuation kit be? That's an interesting idea to me. So everybody has it's in your rucksack. Yeah, I mean, it could be battery operated, it could be something even simpler, who knows? The catapults. I mean, go crazy.
I feel crazy for putting the hot air balloons down below.
We're moving it back up.
Team 3 restoration. Our initial challenge statement was how might we accelerate restoration of essential services, water, power, sanitation, food after an attack. And then this morning we revised it to how might PACAF CRG accelerate restoration of essential services post cyber attack within Indo-PACOM. For drivers that might affect our project, we wrote infrastructure, stakeholders such as host nations, and then policy.
Okay. How, in your minds, when you think infrastructure, what do you see?
Initially, I think our team was talking about ramblers.
Okay, so let me rephrase. What size infrastructure are you thinking about?
What do you mean? In terms of size?
Well, are we stuck in what we're doing right now, which is big mega base, and we got a whole generation plant. I got to get that generation plant back online.
No.
What are we thinking?
Ace.
Okay.
Like the hub and spokes.
And what is the time frame that you are thinking as far as a driver? Are we talking survivability? Or are we talking operation?
Immediately post attack. So survival hero.
Water essential services.
Water sanitation.
Food, water, and sanitation.
And
What's
power.
sanitation?
Power.
Okay, so electricity as well. Food, water, sanitation, and power. And what's sanitation? You're talking about running water.
Yeah, just
Beyond-
make sure people don't die from.
Essentially your initial.
Cholera,
Yeah.
yellow fever. So that's a problem. We do have a malaria vaccine in this year, so that's good. Okay, and why did you limit it to CRG? And I'm just asking because is someone from CRG on the team? Okay. All right,
So originally we had the Department of the Air Force, but that's a little bit too broad. So we were thinking, since we're talking about Indo-PACOM in general, that CRG would be the team that would get called anyways.
Would they?
That's
Are we
what
sure?
were thinking.
I mean, is every one of these little outposts going to have a CRG, or, are we going to think about that differently? Is what I would challenge you with, just to kind of unlock your paradigms a little bit and say, what if there is no CRG available? Now, what do we do? I'm not trying to make you revise your statement again, but if I'm looking for a holy crap idea, it would be a little further out to break away from the, hey, we don't need CRGs anymore. I got everything I need in this briefcase. That's a holy crap thing, right? I can restore everything I need, or I can survive for 3 days without the CRG and without any restoration of anything, or something like that. I'm not doing the solution, but
Essentially, based on what you're saying, I'm hearing, we kind of jump to a solution, the CR being the solution.
maybe, or maybe you limited yourself a little early, is how I might phrase it. Remember, there's gravity pulling you down to what's in the known. So, find that escape velocity if at all possible. So there's one. I mean, I would keep wrestling with. You're going to keep wrestling with, your challenge statement. And I don't know what process you've gone through, and maybe you've already gone to those crazy green ideas, and you've already come back down to earth with them. But I will say this, and I think Ethan's probably already covered it. If he hasn't, he will, and we will repeatedly be going over it. And that is, there's a consistent challenge across the cohorts, and it's the gravity of the red and the blue pulling us back down to, I dare not think that crazy. I could never, it will never. That's always how we find the coaches are kind of trying to just push us out to sea. I'll use another Navy reference for you. I ruffled your feathers earlier, so I'm going to try to make it up to you. Try to get us out in that deeper water where we want to go to think, hey, I'm going to go for this. That takes incredible courage. We get it, and you're in day 2. So I understand that it's absolutely normal to think. To start from the platform of this is what I know and this is how we might think about it in a little bit more innovative way. Hey, keep pushing, keep going crazy. So break it open. What's the color scheme of the team? Greens?
Yellow, green.
Yellow, red. You got a red? Okay, yellow, red. All right. What's your yellow, red?
Red, yellow.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, good. So greens, speak unfiltered. Go for it in the brainstorming. Again, I don't know what you've already done, even I'm not trying to step on where you're going, but.
So we've just done team formation and trend watching. So tomorrow is solutioning and kind of wild, but
Okay.
we're looking for
Yeah.
the who, when, and where. Can we actually look at this problem?
Yeah. Okay.
And so CSG, right? And Saber's comment, right? I think is right on here. So this is like, how do we take feedback? And one of the things that I see innovation novice teams, the mistake that they often make is, if I get negative feedback from one person, I get it in the trash. and you end up swinging back the other direction because Johnny Barnes is much smarter than I am, and he knows the right way to go. And so if it's not CSG, great, look, we're gonna do something else. How do you resist that urge to say, what did we actually hear that we could, how could we make CSG work with all of that feedback? And what if we have a good idea and we just need to make a little modification to account for the feedback that we just heard?
So our initial problem statement was how might we disrupt and weaken malign activities of competitors in vital domains. We refined our challenge statement to how can we disrupt and weaken the activities of China through rebuilding partner relationships and trust with partner nations in the region. We're still kind of trying to identify what that region is, whether that's CENTCOM or the continent of Africa. We're still trying to sort through that. Our drivers that we're looking at, we're still refining them, but we have China's Belt Road Initiative, nations in CENTCOM AOR seeking China as a preferred partner, and then the highest being China Global Basing Operations influence in U.S. operating areas.
So you know what the CENTCOM commander's priorities are?
Yes.
You from CENTCOM?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so are you at Shaw or are you somewhere else?
McDill.
Oh, McDill. Oh, okay. Sorry, I jumped to Watchville Week there. Yeah, I jumped to Ashland. Okay, so sure, partners are one of the top three priorities. Innovation's the third one, by the way, which is kind of cool. So you guys are going to knock this one out of the park, I think. So we, going back to my A57 roots, we certainly do have an international partners division up there, and they think differently, which is what's cool about them. And you have SAF-IA at the headquarters, who you can certainly talk to kind of get the lay of the land on who we're already working with. I will also add that Project Mercury, it looks like we're going to have a deal with Israel. We're going to work with NATO, which is helpful. And so those are a couple of things. And then Task Force 99, does that sound familiar? It's new. But Task Force 99 also is really focused on coalition partners being in their, it's not an innovation cell, but they are in there thinking differently. And so they're making a concerted effort. Every coalition partner at Qatar has been invited to join Task Force 99 in the roles that we allow them to work with in terms of the security and things like that. So there are some folks who are already thinking about this. Sure. Now, your question, let's get back to the verb for a second. Your question was, how might we influence malign actors? Sorry, repeat it for me one more time.
So our initial problem statement, or challenge statement, was how might we disrupt and weaken malign activities of competitors in vital domains? Okay,
now, but your revised one, did you pull that out?
So we just, I think, focused it, so we're looking to disrupt and weaken activities more broadly,
Yeah.
not just malign, through basically rebuilding those relationships.
Okay, got it. So so you might not necessarily call malign activity like we're building this port for you, right? But in essence, it weakens our influence perhaps and strengthens.
Yes.
Because
yeah. Well, not when China goes and builds a port, are they building it? Here's a nice little. They're making it, of course, militarized in a sense.
Yeah.
And they're, from what I understand, they're also leaving their people there and not bringing them back home.
That's right.
The workers, so they're making
they're
building a global empire.
Yeah.
How do we regain the ability to be the better business partner and build partner capacity based on the NDS? It's I think it even says we have to compete in the vital domains where it does come down to education.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out to providing vital resources and just essentially across the board become the better business partner because we are losing the influence.
Okay.
Because we also have policy that's also, we have to do things in a different ethical manner than what our adversaries are doing things. So how do we disrupt that? Because China, even for the concrete that they need, they're taking vital resources out of sandbars and other areas in the South China Sea, extracting that, bringing it, building. It's just it's a sticky wicket.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And you can keep going. You can keep yes-anding this one as it keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Johnny, 30 seconds for 2 contacts that you would recommend.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Well, I would think historically, have we done this before as a nation? You know, if we tried to influence, you know where the term third world comes from? It's from, I think it was Nehru from India, who said, hey, United States first world, Soviets second world, we don't want either one of you, we want a third way. And so we took third world and turned it into something negative. But he was just saying, I don't want to align with either one of you. So the answer is yes, we've done this before. How did we think about that in the past? What were the big screw ups we had? Where we tried to think about how we influence other nations as proxies. Okay, so contacts, I've already given you a couple, so I think SAFI is a good one to start with. And then I think the team on A5, our international relations team, are the kind of thinkers that you would definitely want to talk to. And then again, Task Force 99, I would say, is another good one, or just CENTCOM, the CENTCOM folks who are dealing with partner capacity and relationships.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Our question is, we're revising it right now, but in general, it's low-tech solutions to address high-tech obstacles. We're looking at our target area for AIs. So that's kind of what we're driving towards right now. Some of the other points, some of the drivers we're looking at is regulations, emerging threats, internal threats, United States, both civilians, military, social media, influence on AIs, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So that's all we have.
It's a little dated now. It's like 6 years old, which in the social media landscape is a lot. Well, that is how it is a potential. You mentioned social media. It really spells out some of the power of social media in ways that you would never imagine. Also, Sierra Nevada, it's a contractor, but they have a program that I will have to look up for you. They scan social media and they use it as OSINT. And it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing how predictive they are. So what am I saying? Hey, you don't necessarily need the CIA and the spooky spies out there getting your information. Everybody's giving their data all over the world. These guys in Sierra Nevada were predicting what was happening in Ukraine. You know, a lot of us could see it anyway, but they were like really precise. Like, nope, here's where their SAM site is. You know how I know? Because they don't have real good cell phone discipline, and they only go there when it's like they've got it figured out. They're using AI and other tools. So yes, and there's an intel play. Okay, so I can connect you with Sierra Nevada and then give you the brief. They're expensive, but you know it's good to know what is out there in the social media landscape. Is that low tech? I don't know if that's low tech or not. So, sir.
Yeah, one thing we had kind of talked about more yesterday than today, but on the note of like AI and training, not a low-tech specifically solution, but a low or primitive concept, I guess, is poisoning AI training data.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really go anywhere with it,
Yeah.
but something we're kind of thinking about, kind of reimagining low-tech.
Yeah, how might we make the data unusable? That is the first question anybody involved in AI will ask you is how do you know your data is clean, right? How do you clean your data? How is it good data? So for sure, that's a key question. Let me ask you this: why are you even thinking about low tech? Why does it need to be low tech? I mean, why did you kind of hone in on we need low tech in order to combat high tech? Is it a money thing, a resources thing? Is it an airman capability thing? What?
That was our problem statement.
It was given to you?
Yes.
Aha, okay. So your revised statement still said it sounds like a solution. Like we're not going to allow ourselves to jump into the high-tech area. We're going to force ourselves to be low-tech. Do we know the reasoning behind why we've limited it to low-tech solutions?
Aaron Cross, the USAFA faculty member, I'm going to have to dig into my notes, but his favorite innovator is, I think, an Army or a Navy general who was assigned to the Red Team in a famous exercise in the Middle East. and his team won by using low-tech means that were unobservable by all, we had all this precision strike capability, and his red team totally eviscerated some modern military by just knowing all the things that were observable. Like, you're probably going to try and do all these things, so here's how we hide. Here's how we stay off of all of those open source intelligence networks. And they had to reconfigure the exercise because they said, no, you cheated. Right? So trying to understand, great, like there is something really non-traditional about how modern militaries think we need all the newest stuff. But if I know that that's where the adversary is, what if I planned on doing something that they can't see because they're not expecting it? So like, how do we stay in a different lane? And there's some historical examples of really clever military tactics that offer that kind of, this is possible. It's possible to win in ways that are very non-intuitive.
I think the answer is, I made you think low tech so you wouldn't jump to the default Air Force answer of, oh, I need whammy zammy, man, we gotta get a new F-35. No, man, scope it down, think differently, right? It's kind of a mindset question of, how might I do this so cheaply? So, you know what a cost imposing strategy is? So yeah, how do I think? This is what Task Force 99 is doing. I mean, it's one of their goals is, we've been getting pummeled by certain actors in the CENTCOM area for a long time. They've been using asymmetric tactics, and our defenses are costing us at a 10-to-1 ratio just to defend the stuff that they're doing. Can we keep doing this? Okay, how do we flip that? I'm like, all right, USOBs, let's see what we got. And they are doing some cool stuff. Building styrofoam drones that are so cheap they can just throw them out there, and they're like, okay, what are you gonna do? Oh, you're not gonna attack them with your expensive missiles? Okay, thank you. Oh, you are? Okay, you blew a 10-cent airplane out of this guy, with $1 million missile. Keep going, right? That's what I mean when I talk about low tech. That's not necessarily low tech, but it is very low cost. So how do I resource constrain myself in order to impose costs on the adversary so that they know, hey, we can't keep doing this. You're absolutely right. I would caution you on the default is to think, we're the baddest MFer on the block, so we got the high tech and you don't. Well, think like the Ewok. Think like this is what I got. So how might I think creatively about this? But here's very quickly going to go over the intellectual edge mindset. This is Mick Ryan, 2-star Australian general. He wrote a book called War Transformed. He's got a new novel out too. I can't wait to read a sci-fi novel. And it's about Taiwan, so I'll read it and then let you guys know how it is. Anywho, he says, Clausewitz talked about a lot of principles of war, and we had a big advantage for a long time in all of them after World War II. Well, we don't anymore. They've got speed, they've got mass, we can't necessarily reach them, they're playing a home game. We do have one thing that they don't, the intellectual edge. Our DoD personnel, we believe, have an advantage, not because our DNA is better and we're just more intelligent. That's not what he's saying. He is saying we live in a system, a political system, and an economic system that encourages innovation in ways that a hierarchical, tyrannical, autocratic political system cannot allow to thrive, because that leads to freedoms that they don't want to allow. So think about their domestic politics and how that's constraining them. Well, hey, we got problems. We don't have those problems in our domestic politics. We ought to be able to just think more flexibly and adaptively. So here's where the brilliance of the question comes, I think, to you is, hey, how do I use my brain in ways? And probably the only way I can do that is to break my own paradigms and just consider that all I've got is a spear, and a vine to figure this out. So how might I do this? So there's the low tech, it could be low cost.